Welcome back. I know, Lexington, before the break, you wanted to talk a little about net neutrality and its effect on fake news. So,
absolutely. I think that the two topics really do go hand in hand, because as millennials, if we're interacting with our social media and we think that we have a say, if net neutrality does not exist, we really don't have a say. So net neutrality is having free access to pretty much everything. And companies or people can't buy out sections and influence the way that we relate to them. And the Federal Communications Commission chairman, Ajit Pai, did repeal a bunch of actions that were taken in 2005 to ensure net neutrality. So it's really in jeopardy right now in our current day and age. And the Attorney General, Eric Schneiderman, was investigating these decisions and how people's comments weren't being heard, and that, 22 states are suing them for this because people want net neutrality. It's important to us.
Right, because we don't like sharing fake news if we can't help it. But I want to focus on what we as individual users can do to help stop the spread and the epidemic of fake news. What do you think, Emmanuel?
I think it's simple. I think it's starting with suspending judgment and making sure that you question everything, no matter what, where it comes from, because it is your responsibility as far as the information that you intake and then go out and share to make sure it's accurate.
Yeah, and I think it's so important to kind of, as consumers, cultivate an ability to be online on social media and have conversations and even make pamphlets and do other kind of broadcasts and protests that are community-based. With social media, it's not denying social media, but I think that it's important to be able to operate on and off of social media in case there are restrictions like that.
But I'm concerned that our comments on social media or otherwise aren't being heard. That people are putting these things out there and asking for it, and it's being shot down on a higher level that we don't know about or we don't have access to.
Well, I feel like we could also, we could protest on the streets, and then, when people create news, it's based on what's going on the streets. So if we're the ones occupying those spaces, they have no other choice than to censor our narratives.
And as we're protesting on the street, we're also posting on our social medias. And I know 41% of people go to their social media platforms for their news intake. And that is huge if our news intake is false. If we're reading fake news and 41% of us are consuming fake news, that's a huge problem. So what do we do as a user? I'm home. Me and Donald Trump are on Twitter at 3 a.m. and we're reading up on our news. The nation's watching us. How do we prevent ourselves from clicking on fake news?
I mean, it could be as simple as tweeting Donald Trump, since he loves to tweet, and say, what are your sources?
Right.
Who are you, what scholarly articles or what journals are you referencing?
You might get blocked.
Yeah, fair enough.
So, doing your research, but I'm not that educated. I don't know what sources I should check. Should we be finding some way to penalize creators of fake news, or should it just be like, oh, good luck, you know?
And I think also it's important, and one way to kind of critique or criticize isn't just looking at the sources, but just really thinking, what does this sound like, and what is the manipulation that could be trying to have? What are the consequences of what's being said? Why is it being reported? And if because of net neutrality, Facebook becomes further and further a main source, then I think that does bring up a point about community guidelines on Facebook.
Yeah, I think it's a mixture of an accountability between those who are creating the news, because people who are circulating it might not even know, so they're just circulating it. But I think putting accountability on those who are creating those, and putting accountability on ourselves to look it up and check.
That too, and maybe those news sources that we find are to be truthful and factful, highlighting them, say, listen, this is a trusted source. So I'm going to refer to them the next time I click on something questionable or something like that, because it is very, it's a growing problem, especially social media. Like I said, everyone uses it for their news outlets. When we come back, we'll be discussing our final topic, environmental protection.